Harihi Om Sadashivasamarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Om. So we are in the Shloka number 45 of chapter number 1. Aho batamahat papam kartum vyavasita vayam yadrajya sukhalobhena hantum swajanamudyatha. Arjuna is in full emotions right now and breaking up actually. So he's really going through a lot of emotional turmoil, and in that situation, in that mood set, he says, Aho bata mahat papam. Right? How strange it is. This great sins, kartum, to commit or to perform, vyavasita, we have resolved to, have we settled into, vayam, us. So what a kind of sin are we likely to commit? For what? Rajya sukha lobhena, driven by the desire, lobham, for rajya sukham, the pleasures or comforts of rulership. Hantum swajanam, to kill our own people. Udyataha, right? Ud, yat is the thing that is coming together. Ud is up or out, and yat is refers to yatnam, the effort, right? So means ready, being prepared or engaged. So alas, how strange it is that we have decided or resolved to commit to perform a great sin of intending to kill our own family men, because we are driven by the greed for royal happiness. So this is total delusion under which Arjuna is speaking this. So the decision to go for the war, it was not impulsive, it was not reactive, it was very clearly planned. If you take a look at the history of everything that happened between Pandavas and Kauravas, in childhood, Bhima will be poisoned and pushed into Ganges. He is saved by Naga, not only survives, but returns with more strength. Then in the Lakshagriha, right, they set fire to the wax kind of house. Right. It was one of the most overt attempt to kill Pandavas. They were saved by Vidura, who warns about what is the possibility, and they escape through a tunnel that was already planned. After escaping, they had to live in a hiding in a village called Ekachakra. And then Indraprastha, where when the division of the kingdom took place and Indraprastha was established and the Rajasuya Yajna was performed, crowning Yudhishthir as the king for Indraprastha, they try to stir up conflicts and throw so much of insults. Then we know about the game of dice, right? They take over the Indraprastha through deceit. They humiliate Draupadi. Last one is where Lord Krishna requests for 5 villages. Even that is refused. So all of this has culminated into a situation which establishes that Duryodhan held no respect. He misbehaves even with Lord Krishna and Bhishma Pitama. Had he become the king, it will not be the guidance of the noble. It will not be dharma which will take us forward. Rather, it will be the will of Duryodhan which will be harmful to the entire nation. Right. So it is under these circumstances that the war was initiated. And what does Arjuna says? He says that we are driven by the lobham, as in Pandavas are driven by the lobham. He has totally forgotten this particular history. And Arjuna was aware of all of this. In fact, during the preparation of war, King Yudhishthira will try to, evade the war. At that time, it will be Arjuna who prompts and he advises King Yudhishthira. Right. So, if you look at Bhagavad Gita itself, earlier in Shloka number 37, Arjuna observes Kauravas to be driven by lobham or greed. Now he sees the lobham on his own side, overlooking the Viveka. Right. So this is what is driving him to say that, hey, what a great sin we were about to commit. There is a deep reflection with respect to Mahabharata. Mahabharata is not just a story. The incidents that are sequentially mentioned in Mahabharata represents several of our mental turbulences. When we look at our own life, right, we will see that we have gone through several ups and downs. And if you pay close attention, at least one or two of these incidents will be very similar to the incident in terms of the emotional impact, not the literal equal, but something which has created that emotional turmoil in us. So it reflects upon all such possible emotional turmoils. Very beautifully narrated. Every role that you see in Mahabharata is a lesson by itself. It is worth a PhD in itself. It is that deep and that thoughtful. Right? So it is a very, very good means to learn about samsara, or the bondage that we are subject to in our life. But it is very important to also realize that this samsara has a cure. And that cure is Bhagavad Gita, is Upanishad. So we will talk about it when we get into the core of the Upadesha in our next chapter from the 11th Shloka. But for now, let us realize that all the stories that were narrated from the Shloka number 1 till Shloka number 45 are purely reflections of what are all the background that we have, how we can relate it to our own samsara, and realize that Bhagwan's words, which are about to come, addresses the core of it through jnana, through various questions and answers that happen between Arjuna and Krishna. Moving on to the 46th shloka. The shloka goes like this. Yadhi mama pratikaram ashastram shastrapanayah dartarashtrarane hanyuhu tanme kshemataram bhavet. Right. So here he now comes to the point of surrender. Yadi mam, even if I am apratikaram, without reacting, contextually, without showing any resistance to the attack from the other side. Ashastram, without weapons. Shastra panayah, to those who have weapons in their hand. Pani is hand, Shastra Panayah is one having the Shastra in his hand. Dhartarashtraha, the army of Dhritarashtra or the sons of Dhritarashtra. Rane, on the battlefield, Hanyuhu, should be killed. Tat, that, may, to me, Kshemataram, is superior welfare. Contextually, it will be better. Bhavet, would become. So what he says is, even if I am to drop my weapon and without the weapons face those who are carrying the weapon to come and attack and kill me, I feel that is more superior welfare. That will bring more superior welfare, is the extent to which Arjuna communicates to Lord Krishna. Now, for this shloka, this is the last shloka in which Arjuna is speaking, and then Sanjaya will speak. So let us take a look at Kshatriya Dharma. The Kshatriya Dharma has various roles that can be defined. The first one is protection. Right? Kshatriyas are, in fact, I wouldn't even say where, are primarily responsible for the protection of a kingdom and the people in the kingdom. They take care of both movable and immovable properties that are contained in the kingdom. It includes defending the kingdom from an external threat, at the same time maintaining law and order within the kingdom. So this is one of the primary roles of Kshatriya. The second is leadership. They should be able to provide effective and righteous leadership and governance. These are very important traits for any country or for any kshetra to become healthy. They are responsible for just and wise decisions for the welfare of their subjects. They bring in a social order which is kind of inevitable to the humans. They act as leaders responsible to hold such social order. The next one is courage. Courage and valor are important virtues among Kshatriyas. They naturally display bravery in battlefield. Facing the danger is not only natural in them, but also an important dharma of Kshatriyas. This is one of the reasons why the Indian army is so strong. Right? People might have heard about this story, especially after it has come in a Bollywood movie, right? About a few select, very small troop of Sikh holding the entire fort and, till the last breath, and kind of defeating the purpose which the Afghans came to attack. Right? It is amazing when we look back at the history where this kind of thing has been cultivated in us. It is so beautiful. So that aspect is Kshatriyatvam. Facing the danger is just natural in them. No issues at all. Honesty and integrity. Kshatriyas uphold truth and integrity. That is an essential element in them. That will be a story. I think we have already discussed about it, or we will talk about it later, where you will see that, Bhishma Pitama gives 5 golden arrows to Duryodhan. And because of the promise that Duryodhan had made when he was saved, he gives it to Arjuna. It is It is so clear and amazing. We have seen this in Ramayana too, where just because King Dashrath had made a promise, he upholds the promise to Kaikeyi and let go of Ram. It is it is that kind of a trait which holds them very different from anyone else. They are honest in their dealings, and they can go to any extent to hold themselves to their promises. These are the main traits of Kshatriya. Vaishyas also establish this leadership, but their leadership will be based on what I get, not what is done for the society. So that is what the differentiator between the two are, because they both exhibit Rajasic Swabhav. But when the Rajasic Swabhav is combined with the Sattvic Swabhav, we get Kshatriyas. Duty and sacrifice. They are willing to sacrifice and be very duty bound in their approach to any functions they are bound by. Very, very responsible in their mindset. And those who have gone through the armed forces training, they will know that this is imbibed into us. Justice. Ensure justice and fairness in the administration of the society. Naturally step up when they witness injustice, immaterial, whether they are directly impacted or not. So, for example, if a Kshatriya is going and he sees an injustice happening, he will stand up to it very naturally. Not hide by saying that that is not belonging to me, kind of a stuff. Right? So they will very naturally step up whenever required. They are responsible to punish the wrongdoers and protect the rights of the subject. This is talking from a king's point of view, but executed by Kshatriyas again. So these are something that can be summarized into what we call as Kshatriya Dharma. Now, if you take a look at Arjuna, Arjuna slipped from the position of a Kshatriya. He started looking at the situation based on Samanya Dharmam. So it is not adharma from one point of view. It is still dharma, but what the Shastra says is the Samanya Dharma, which is something, the do's and don'ts of a person in an individual capacity, versus Vishesha Dharma, those which are the do's and don'ts pertinent to the role that one person plays. To cut somebody is, in a Samanya Dharma, adharma. But to cut somebody for a doctor when the person is performing some kind of a surgery is not only required, but also the dharma that he is supposed to perform. Now, he cannot go back and say, how can I cut this person? That is against the Samanya Dharma. So the Dharma Shastra says, Vishesha Dharma should prevail over Swadharma or Samanya Dharma. Right? So the common Dharma is for our day-to-day life, but Vishesha Dharma takes precedence when we take up a specific role. From that point of view, Arjuna slipped from the position of a Kshatriya. He started with a little bit of ahambhava. Upon seeing Bhishma Pitama and Dronacharya, there is ragaha, there is an attachment that he starts feeling. This leads to anxiety or sorrow, which is called as shokaha. When you have shokam, then you end up in moham. Moham is when you lose the clarity over dharma and adharma. So this is the pattern of our moham. First one is raga. It all starts with attachment. When you have overwhelming attachment towards anything, and if to that thing something happens, there is a shoka. In fact, shokam or krodam, right? It can even manifest as krodam or lobham, right? Lobham is very excessive desire to possess it. Let us say that I'm seeing a very beautiful and yet a very costly pen in front of me, right? Something that I cannot afford, right? So as soon as my sight goes there and there is a, what is a sense of attachment that gets developed between me and the object that I have seen, this will result in three possible outcomes: shokam, or krodam, or lobham. Right? So if I don't get it, it leads to shokam. If it is something that I can get because it is in a very vulnerable position, then it develops into me as perhaps krodam. A better example will be if I have got the pen and if something happens to the pen and the other person is inferior in terms of my ability to strike, it will manifest as krodam. The third one is lobham. Say I cannot afford it, then this attachment will develop into me as a deep desire to get it. So these three are the possible manifestations of raga. And all the three of them, right, will bring about a moham, will bring about a delusion in you. And that delusion will, what is it, will stop your viveka. You may be very learned person, but it will stop your viveka from functioning. Your ability to rationally think will be severely impaired. And that is moham. That is the effect of the moham. We will talk about it in the next chapter, where towards the end, Bhagavan will say how the things manifest and what is the end result. He says pranashyati, for that matter, right? So we will talk about it when we get to that place. But for now, we just need to understand ragaha, shokaha, and mohaha is what Arjuna has established in this series of shloka, in which he expresses his attachment and other emotional distress to Lord Krishna. Moving on, this is the last shloka in this chapter, the 47th shloka. Sanjaya uvacha evamuktvārjuna sankhye ratopastha upavishat visrujya sasharam chapam shoka samvigna manasah. So here, after talking all these things, what Arjuna does is what Sanjaya is expressing here. Sanjaya uvacha, Sanjaya spoke, evam uktva Arjunaha. Evam, in this manner, uktva, having said, Arjunaha, Arjun, sankhye, in the middle of the battlefield. Ratha upastha. Upastha is the seat, Ratha is in the chariot. The chariot holds a place for a person to sit. So in that sit, what does he do? Upavishat. He sat down. And then what did he do? Visrujya. Literally, putting aside or throwing it out, right? Letting go of. He puts aside Sasharam Chapam. Right, Sasharam Chapam. It is Sharam is arrow, and Chapam is the bow. Right, Sa is the prefix, or sa is basically with or having. So what he is doing, it is just the what is it, verb annotation that comes over here. So here it is basically he puts away his arrows and the bow. Shoka samvignaha, with deep sorrow. Samvignaha is with distress. Right? Vignam, we know that we use it. It is something, a kind of hurdle. Right? Samvignam is something that is extremely, very in totality, is the vigna, which is created from within. That samvigna manasaha. That manasaha is the one that emphasizes it is in the mind. So in Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, we say 3 times Shanti. It is because of that, right? Adidevam, Adibhutam, Adhyatmam. This Adhyatmam, or the one which is the Vigna created by us in our own self, that is what is indicated in this Manasaha, in his mind. So that's what happens. This is the narration by Sanjaya. So we will just take a quick look at Arjuna. Arjuna is considered one of the greatest warriors of his time. As a young student of Dronacharya, he impresses the teacher with amazing traits. Shoots in the eye of the bird, where he can only see the eye, whereas others are able to say that they are able to see other things as well. He is a self-learner, fighting in the dark, observing his brother navigate through darkness to get food. He says, if he can do this, why not I do this? And he starts learning it on his own. Swayambara, he is shooting at the eye of a moving fish, looking at the reflection. That is the extent to which his perfection has grown. No, there is a story in which Arjuna is grabbed by a crocodile while in the water, and he drags the crocodile out of the water, reflecting his great strength. So that is the extent to which he is strong physically as well. Now, he is said to have learned several formats of fighting, including wrestling and mace. Similarly, Bhima is also, though he is known for mace, he is also a great archer. Right? People learn all the kinds of warfare, and he is said to have mastered even in those. So, in one of the stories, Shiva disguises as a tribal to test Arjuna. So, when Arjuna is shooting at a boar, Shiva also shoots at the boar at the same time. So, both of them now make a claim to the hunt. Now, as a Kshatriya, you are supposed to fight. So, he picks up the fight with Lord Shiva and he fights him. Right? Impressed with Arjuna's ability to fight, Lord Shiva gives him this Pashupatastra. So it says a lot about the greatness of Arjuna. From the mindset point of view also, he has shown great mindsets. Right? Even when he goes to the Indraloka, where he gets allured by the most beautiful woman, he keeps his resistance. Right? He doesn't fall. He is very strong-minded. During the war, which will be happening after this, he depicts amazing role. He is able to cover the entire battlefield. Right? He devises a lot of strategies which were executed successfully in the war. And Jayadrat's slaying is also shown as displaying his great strength. Though it was Lord Krishna who supported him, right? So it is the execution is by by Arjuna. Right. So that is something that we have to keep in mind. That is the role of the Lord, of the Bhagavan, and of anyone who is wanting to follow. You need to be able to execute yourself with devotion and then God helps you. It is not that God will do it for you. You have to execute it. But when you execute it with devotion, God comes to your aid. Right. So this is an amazing part. Despite being so strong, Arjuna slipped from his position of a Kshatriya. So this is something that can happen to us as well. We may be the strongest, yet we will slip. This slip should also be seen as a reflection of his strength, not a weakness. He slipped from his path of dharma as a Kshatriya, no doubts about it. But as observed, he was still upholding the Samanya Dharma. He was not going on the path of Adharma. He was overwhelmed by the kindness and affection towards those who are standing in front of him, especially Bhishma Pitama and Dronacharya. Many times we feel we are strong and fail to express ourselves naturally. This is a very important lesson that we will cover as we start our next chapter. What makes a person learn? We will cover that particular thing when we get into the next chapter. It is important to look at yourself and see whether your abilities, your wisdom, and your actions are aligned or not. That is the most important thing. When you see there is a misalignment, then you are not being truthful in your expression. It is very important also to note that when this difference in you comes about, seek the help that is needed. It is immaterial whom you seek the help with. Who is available, you seek the help from them. But it is not a blind followership that you do, but by analyzing, by questioning, by rationalizing, and realizing the truth with the guidance of the one who has helped is the means for any kind of success. Those are the key values that we should derive from this first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. With this, the chapter is over. And in tradition, we say this particular conclusion as part of the, every chapter's end. It goes like this. Om Tatsad iti Shrimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama Prathamodhyaya. Because Shankaracharya has not written for this chapter, we will talk about how Shankaracharya closes it as an example for the second chapter. But we will continue to maintain this as the traditional way of ending each chapter. We will not be going word by word every time, but herein we can go word by word. Om Tat Sad. We will talk about this in chapter 17. This is basically saying that everything that we have done is offered back to the God. So that is a traditional way of communicating that, hey, this is the end. Iti, in this manner, this Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Su, which is Shrimad Bhagavad Gita, Upanishatsu, which reveals the essence of the Upanishads, Brahma Vidyayam, that which provides the knowledge about Brahman, the Paramatma, Yoga Shastre, and also it provides guidance to the Yoga Shastra. The Yoga Shastra are categorized into four: Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. Karma Yoga is where we develop an attitude in us to be merely the doers, but not the doers with an intent to get something. To achieve something is different from getting something. That aspect of getting something is let gone when we do the karma. That is what is Karma Yoga. Raja Yoga is the traditional yoga that we use, which is like the asana, or which we talk about as Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga. So that aspect comes within the word Raja Yoga. Bhakti Yoga, where the devotion is taken as a means, and Jnana Yoga, that is what we are doing right now. Jnana Yoga is an exercise of listening, allowing what you listened to seep into you. It takes time, right? Because as I have always said, if someone is listening to this kind of Bhagavad Gita or any other Jnana Yoga part of it, what is, if in case, not even just Bhagavad Gita, even if in case you go to the school, if the teacher teaches for 1 hour, what you retain could be 1% to 20% max. The other 80% was essential for you to get that 1% or 20%. Right? So that is what the Shravanam is coming in as an exercise. But if in case you become only Shravana centric, then the Mananam will not take place, the Nitidhyasana will not take place. So it becomes Vyartham. You should be able to say that this is the exercise that I am performing. Shravanam is an exercise. It is a commitment, similar to how we do, say, meditation or yoga. Every day at 6 o'clock in the morning, I will do yoga. Similarly, every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m., we will do this Shravanam. That kind of an attitude towards this as an exercise should develop. And we may fail at 6 a.m. Not every day one can do the yoga. There are other constraints, which is absolutely fine, right? But the commitment to this time should not be lost. That is the attitude that we get into when we talk about Jnana Yoga. Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. Samvadam is it's a very beautiful word actually. We will talk about Vadam and Samvadam, etc., at a later point in time. But here, the Samvad means that which brings about goodness. That is the prefix sam attached to the Vadam, the discourse of the communication that takes place between a guru and the Sishya in this case. Between whom? Sri Krishna, Lord Sri Krishna, and Arjuna. With the name Arjuna Vishadha Yoga. Right. The state of Arjuna, which is Vishadham, the depressions of Arjuna, is the name that is attributed. So first chapter's name is Arjuna Vishada Yoga, Prathamodhyaya, and forms the first chapter. We will quickly take a look at chapter 1. Bhagavad Gita starts with a question from Dhritarashtra. This is the only time where King Dhritarashtra speaks in Bhagavad Gita. He asks his charioteer who is blessed with the divine eyes, to provide details on what is happening in the war. Between Shlokas 2 and 20, we saw various descriptions of the battlefield. Between 2 and 10, the key persons are named. Between 11 and 19, the preparation for the commencement of the war is described. Everybody blowing their conch shells and drums and so on. In the 20th shloka, the initiation of the war takes place as Arjuna lifts his Gandiva. So that is a very clear indication of starting the war. 21 to 25 describes the intent of Arjuna to look at the assembled armies. So he issues an order to Lord Krishna, and Lord obeys the order as a charioteer. Shlokas 26 to 28 describes the emergence of Raga. His attachment is coming to expression. Between Shlokas 29 and 31.1, he describes the process of Raga transforming into Shoka. We discussed it can be Shokam, Krodam, or Lobham, which comes out of Raga. Shlokas 31.2 to 46, the Moham is described, is elaborated. Right. So, 29 to 31.1 reflects the Manobhava, the impact that it has as well. Right. Then the impact on the Buddhi. So we say that the Shokam is a disease of the mind, and the Moham is the disease of the intellect, of the Buddhi. Right. So that is what is the difference between 29 to 31.1 and 31.2 to 46. The Shloka 47 concludes the state in which Arjuna was as described by Sanjaya. It is traditional to summarize the argument that Arjuna places before the god. So if you look back, if you reflect back on all the 47 shlokas, we are going to see what exactly are the aspects that we can take a look at. He is now saying, I'm not going to fight the war. So, not fighting the war, throwing away his weapon and sitting down on the chariot, what are all the bases that Arjuna puts across? Right? This is the brief summary of everything that we have discussed in chapter 1. 1, not seeing goodness being done. This is called as Shreyas, that which is not bringing goodness. The second thing is Bhogam, based on not wanting the pleasures of kingdom. Then Lokam, based on the people for whom the war is engaged. Dharma Shastram, based on the principles of righteousness. He is argued, saying that it is wrong. Based on Papa Punyam, good deeds and the sins, he again discusses about this. Based on the outcome of the war. Traditionally, we call it as Anubandham. Right? So it is based on the outcome of the war. Vivekam. Just because the opposing side does not see the dangers, it doesn't mean we should also not see the danger. That is Vivekam. Right. Then Kulakshayam, the destruction of the lineage. So we summarize the arguments that have been placed by Arjuna into these categories. Right? Shreyas, Bhogam, Lokam, Dharma Shastram, Papa Punyam, Anubandham, Vivekam, and Kulakshayam. Right? Now, root cause for ignorance or delusion is the attachment one develops towards anything. Attachment will first impact your emotional side of mind by igniting shokam or krodam or lobham. Right? We also add something like helplessness, feeling very helpless, or having some wild imaginations. This is also some people start doing. Right? Oh man, if in case I win the lottery, all my problems will be solved. Man, your problems will not be solved. New problems will come. That's about it. That is the only change. Right? So let us not fool ourselves around with that. That kind of wild imagination is also something that we speak about in our traditional teaching. Immaterial of how the attachment manifests, be it shokam, krodham, or lobham, you will lose your ability to think rationally. You will lose your ability to see the truth. The problem is you will not lose the fact that you have lost the rationality. If you look up what Arjuna has done, he has applied absolute rational thinking in everything that he has said. But it is just that it was wrong. Why it was wrong? Because of his role in the society or in the role in the current situation. So that difference will be lost, because of which you will assume that you are being very rational. And unless you go to a guru, it will not get resolved. When I say guru, it doesn't mean somebody who is wearing a, what is a, that saffron things, or, nothing like that. Right. What it means is somebody to whom you can surrender yourself at that point in time. That's all. Where you will not counter argue. Otherwise, if in case you don't surrender to the guru, you will continue to counter argue and reinforce this error in your judgment caused by the attachment. You need to have someone who is very balanced to that situation and give you the necessary knowledge for you to come out of it yourself. It is not going to be the guru is going to pull you out. The guru is only going to give the jnana, and it is you who is going to pull yourself out. Because you have the ability to. It is just that you have lost that in the moham. That is the main aspect that we have to learn from this chapter. With this, we conclude the chapter number 1. In chapter number 2, as I said, the next week, let us start it. We will start with the basis of what is learning. Right. So we'll look into the scientific analysis where they say it is between 2 and 7 that you learn the most, etc. But we will critically analyze it from a Vedantic point of view to see what is important, what is the alignment that makes learning the best at its pinnacle. Right? And when that gets disturbed, the learning reduces. But believe me, even with the perfection, the learning is like about, as I said, 20%, unless you are someone like a Nachiketa. That happens in Kathopanishad. Right? But the core aspect is we need to know that listening is an exercise. After listening, allowing your mind to think about it, not get hung to it. That is very important. If you get hung to what you're listening, then your learning reduces. We will talk about this in our next class. So we will take a break here and go for the Q&A. Prabhakar. Oh, I think Sanjeshni ji.
जय श्री राम गुरु जी, कैसे हैं आप?
बस ईश्वर की कृपा. Thank you.
Sorry, I joined maybe like 10 minutes late, but I do have a question. So, how you mentioned that Arjun is such a great warrior, and he is great in he has so many good qualities and everything. Even a person like his caliber, gets sort of hung up or stuck, and he starts having doubts about, all these things of what he's supposed to do. I feel like for me, I'm just an ordinary person, and I always get stuck in, okay, what should I do? what am I supposed to do? All these questions to come up. And you did mention that, Bhagwan is how Krishna is there to, guide him. So is that like how it is in our life too, where, when we get stuck?
It is very situational in nature, right? Arjuna did not even know that Lord Krishna is Bhagwan, right? And you will learn about it in chapter 11, where after seeing the Vishwarupa, Arjuna himself says, right, hey Madhava, hey Sakha, these are all the ways that I have been calling you, not realizing that you are the God, right? So it is when this happens, Arjuna is not aware that Lord Krishna is the Bhagwan. When we talk of Bhagwan, we will talk about the word Bhagwan as well when we start our in the next chapter actually, when Bhagwan first speaks, right, in the Shloka number 2, we will talk about what the word Bhagwan means. You need to understand that it is not like something is existing somewhere else which is going to come and talk to you, or somebody who is so great is going to come and talk to you. If you take a look at it, he was, after all, a charioteer. But Arjuna was willing to surrender to a friend and a charioteer. Right? The aspect is not surrender as in totally physically surrendering. It is even just merely expression or changing the mindset to be able to be a listener to someone else. Say, for example, it is your father who is standing in front, and you go and talk to him and he's giving some advice, you start talking back, which means you have not taken him as a guru. And it is also doesn't mean that you're going to blindly take what your father has said. It is the attitude that you change towards the guru that matters. And the guru could be anyone, number one. Number two is, let us take Arjuna. The reason for him to get into this issue. Let us take your example itself. Say you are a good programmer, software engineer, right? But
I wish I'm just a small accountant.
okay, so you are an accountant and you are seeing that you are not able to tally the trial balance, right? Or you are not able to tally the balance sheet. There is some other hurdle that is coming up, right? Then you need to be able to understand that you have the capability to do it. It is some error that is happening somewhere. And that error is caused by this delusion. It may not be because of ragaha, mohaha, shokaha, etc. It could be just because that rationality was missed. When that is missed, you seek that guidance. You seek that help. Right? So being able to seek the help when you see the difference or when you see it is impacted is key to becoming excellent in your output, in your delivery. Right? In a corporate world, I'm not going to directly say that because it has got other aspects also in terms of politics, in terms of the perception that you have to fight for. There are so many other aspects. Right? So I'm giving a simplified example. But the fact is, being open to seek help is the most important aspect. For Arjuna, the example that we give is because we take the best among the Pandavas, Arjuna. In fact, in the 10th chapter, Bhagavan will say, among Pandavas, I am Arjuna. It is that great of a person Arjuna was, even he can fall down. If I have got this moham, this delusion that blocks my eyes, that is the value that we learn and move on.
So the attachment, because he was so attach, like how you were saying the attachment is there for Arjuna, like in our lives, like I'm a mother, and also actually I'll be open with you. I've been dealing with a lot of health issues, but it's getting so much better. I have actually gotten a kidney transplant, and things have started to look a little better now. I've been on dialysis for over 14 years. So there's all the obstacles that keep coming up, but and also at the same time, the attachment of my daughter, my husband, the attachment of my body, actually, just the health, just trying to get better. Though there's so many things that one, as myself, has all these attachments. So how do you, and I think I really understand what you're saying is when you are so attached, you lose your ability to like think rationally, and that has happened to me many times. So how can one, you know try to keep like what do we do to not have attachment?
No, see again, it's a great question actually. So the here in Bhagavad Gita, nowhere it is said that you should not have attachment. Having an attachment is the weakness of mind, is the
Mm,
only thing that we need to understand.
mhm.
And when there is an attachment, the effect of it is also thing that one must understand. This realization itself will guide you to the point where the term attachment will change to what we generally use as Kshetra Paripalana. In other words, the role will shift from being a protector to one who is a nurturer. The example that we take is that of a baby, right? A newborn baby, right? Uh, a newborn baby doesn't even care for you. It will kick, it will cry when you don't want it to cry, right? And it will be on its own. But you will have what do you say? You will have such a love for the baby that you will take care of the baby in every way possible without expecting the baby to even react to you. For example, you say smile, it is not going to smile and it is going to look at someone else and it is going to give a beautiful smile. You're not going to
Mhm.
be upset about it. There is a sense of not attachment, but of that of duty, of that of nurturing, of taking care of that field. That shift is what we will be talking a lot about in Bhagavad Gita.
Uh,
So, if you are going to resist saying that, I should not have any attachment at all, then you should not be a human at all. As simple as that. Right? So, that attachment is very natural. You can see that even in Lord Krishna. Right? If you read the entire Shrimad Bhagavatam, or if you talk about Mahabharata, you will see that there is a lot of places where such an emotional attachment has been expressed even by Lord Krishna. Having that attachment is very different to getting to a point where the attachment is going to impact your ability to act. That
uh,
is different. We are talking about overcoming the impact of the attachment in your ability to act.
mm,
Right? We are
mm,
not talking about not having attachment.
mm,
Similarly, even in meditation, in our tradition, we very clearly clarify that it is not keeping your mind steady. It is keeping your mind steady when you want it, otherwise, letting the mind be on its own mechanism or on its own self. Right? We will see it as an antakarna, which is swatantraha as well.
mm,
Right? So it is that aspect which changes the way in which the situations reaches. And that is a beautiful elevation that happens, not only emotionally, but also in terms of a lot of rational maturity that you get, and eventually even the Atma Gyan, the Gyan about the self. Again, I cannot say that because it is objectified. And we will talk about that in depth during the next few years, I should say.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you very much, Guruji.
absolutely. Thank you. Prabhakar? Again, I think you're traveling, Prabhakar, and we are not able to hear you, which should be okay. You can always connect if in case there are any other questions or thoughts or comments. Okay, so we will take a pause here and connect again next week. Harihi Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnad Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.